Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still with you on today's edition of Arab Affairs, and we're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest for the afternoon, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our journalist. Mr. Ramzy, it's a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you and Angie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramzy, for your time this afternoon. Now let's jump ahead to some of the recent developments, the recent releases by Iranian officials that said dialogue with the United States over Tehran's nuclear program has become meaningless after Israel's biggest ever really military strike. There were supposed to be talks tomorrow in Muscat. However, the Iranians have not yet indicated whether or not they will be attending such proposed talks. What do you think is going to happen, Mr. Ramzy, in this regard?
Well, this is based on the conclusion that Israel would not have carried out the attack without the American green light.
Yes.
And if the USA has given the green light, and if the USA is assisting Israel defend itself against the Iranian rockets, then in that case, America is actually a partner in the attack. And the negotiations on the future of the nuclear facilities in Iran, it is inappropriate, according to the Iranians, to actually negotiate when they are under attack and negotiate with someone who's a partner in the attack.
Yes.
Now, having said this, the Iranians, NG, are very pragmatic when it comes to their interests. And they're leaving the door open. They are not coming out and saying we will no longer negotiate. They are not saying we are withdrawing from the treaty. All of these are possibilities, by the way.
Yes.
But they are possibilities that are related to what is going to happen next, and depending on what happens next. I'll give you an example, NG. If you look at all of the Iranian rocket attacks on Israel, they have not attacked any of the energy facilities. They didn't attack the gas facilities. They didn't attack the electric facilities. They didn't go after strategic, major strategic outlets inside of Israel that could be very painful. Why? Because Israel will retaliate with something that is very similar.
Yes.
So the Iranians are calculating what they are attacking, and they are also calculating what they are saying, because they don't want to say something that will make it worse for them. So they're very pragmatic when it comes to their interest, and they are being very careful regarding what they're doing or what they're saying.
Indeed, Mr. Ramzy. Now, regarding some of the attacks, that Israel launched, unprecedented, really, attacks, a very important update was released by the Iranian military officials, where they said that they will be retaliating, and the retaliation will not just be against Israeli targets only, but also will expand to include U.S. bases in the region in the coming days. What do you make of this, Mr. Ramzy? Right, apologies. We seem to have lost our connection with our guest. Hopefully we'll get him back on the line. But till we do so, another reports a top-level UN conference on the two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians scheduled for next week has been postponed amid the surging tensions in the Middle East. France and Saudi Arabia were due to co-chair the conference hosted by the UN General Assembly in New York on June 17th till the 20th, and the French President Emmanuel Macron had been amongst the leaders scheduled to attend. We have the details. A top-level UN conference on a two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians scheduled for next week has been postponed amid surging tensions in the Middle East. France and Saudi Arabia were due to co-chair the conference hosted by the UN General Assembly in New York on June 17th till the 20th, and French President Emmanuel Macron had been among leaders scheduled to attend. Macron expressed his determination to recognize the state of Palestine at some point despite the postponement. He told reporters the two-state conference was postponed for logistical and security reasons, and because some Palestinian representatives could not come to the event. UN ambassadors from France and Saudi Arabia said the conference will open on June 17th in the General Assembly Hall, but only to propose and agree to its suspension. He said the aim of the conference was a demilitarized Palestinian state recognizing the existence and security of Israel. Macron spoke with 10 world leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, about the Israeli strikes on Iran and the consequences. One of the aims of the UN conference was to increase the number of countries recognizing Palestinian territories as an independent state. So far, more than 145 of the 193 UN member nations have done so. Welcome back, and once again we're delighted to have back with us on the phone Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our guest and the journalist. Mr. Ramzy, apologies for this technical problem with the line, and thank you once again for your time. Just before we lost contact, I was asking you about the senior Iranian military officials who said that Iranian strikes against Israel will continue and expand to include several American bases in the region in the coming days. How do you see this announcement?
It's a threat, Angie, and I'll explain why.
Yes.
It's just a threat. Iran understands that Israel's dream is to bring in the United States into the war, and therefore be able to do whatever they want, regime change or whatever, using American military power. And what the Iranians are basically saying to the Americans, don't do it, or at least let us give you the excuse not to do it. Why? Because the U.S. military bases in the region are many. There are over 40,000 U.S. troops in these bases, by the way.
Yes.
And an attack on these bases could actually create casualties that Trump doesn't want to see, and therefore the Iranians are giving him an excuse to continue to refuse to engage in a direct manner in this war. And if you look at what the Americans are doing, the Americans are now, they've taken steps back. Right at the outset of the attacks, the President Trump came out gloating and saying that these attacks will most likely help in the negotiations on Sunday. But the minute that they saw that the Iranians still have the ability to attack Tel Aviv and to attack all of these targets, and the damage that actually was created by these attacks, the Americans withdrew. They are no longer gloating or bloating, and they are very silent, and they're trying to distance themselves from the Israeli attack, very much unlike what President Trump did right at the outset of the attack.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Lots of contradicting views.
Right, and the whole thing, the whole idea is, it's not of American interest to be in a war with Iran, because this is going to really turn the whole region into a turmoil. And the Americans, they want the Iranians to come broken and say, we are willing to accept all your demands, and we are willing to end this immediately. But it doesn't seem like it is happening, Angie.
No.
By the way, it is not just the Iranians who are being very careful what they are attacking, but the Israelis are doing the same. The Israelis, they don't want to see their economic facilities all destroyed. For one thing, until this minute, Iran has refrained from destroying Ben Gurion Airport, for example. It is shut down. Israel has already moved their airplanes, Al-Al airplanes and other vessels out of Israeli airports, and they parked them in Cyprus, Greece, and some are parked in the USA now. But because that is a possibility, it could still happen. But if it happens, it's an escalation. That means Israel is going to come and destroy Tehran airport. This is basically what is going to happen if the Iranians destroy Ben Gurion. So the Iranians have to, both parties, they have to think, how, if we need to escalate, where do we escalate and how do we escalate? And the Americans are just going to sit it out and watch, because if they do get involved, then it's a regional war, it is an international war, and it's a devastating war, and this is not very good for America's allies in the region. Israel is not the only ally in the region, and the USA has big hopes regarding the investments that are coming from the Gulf countries, stability in the region, etc.
Now also, Mr. Ramzy, let's talk a bit about some of the military officials that were targeted by the Israeli attacks, amongst them the Iranian Armed Forces Chief of Staff, also Iran's Revolutionary Guards Chief, all veteran officers which were close to the Supreme Leader Khamenei. Now, this is a message in itself, wouldn't you say?
It's a very painful message, Angie. The attack was devastating to the Iranian military infrastructure, and the price that Iran paid was very big. I mean, they pretty much wiped out the military top leadership, and it took Iran a whole day before they were able to recollect themselves, re-establish leadership and command, and to start answering back the attack. It took them a whole day to do that. And this is basically, this is an indicator of how much of a surprise Iran was in. When they say that they actually fell into a trap, I would have to condone that notion, because they had absolutely no idea that any attack could happen before the conclusion of talks on Sunday in Oman. So they were surprised by the attack, so much so that their leadership were actually at home. They were all sleeping with their family at home when they were attacked by Israel. Also the level of intelligence that Israel enjoys in order for them to go ahead and assassinate all of these very, very, very important military leaders is tremendous. And this is yet another major challenge for Iran. So they have major internal issues, major internal problems. And they have to wonder today, what does Israel know in terms of intelligence, and what can they do with that knowledge?
Absolutely.
And so it is that way. It's a very, very painful attack to Iran. But Iran right now is trying to send the message that they are not destroyed, that the regime is not going to collapse, that they have the ability to replace their leadership immediately, and they still have the ability to actually cause harm to Israel and fire the rockets.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Ramzy, Israel has for a very long time said it views Iran as an existential threat, and these attacks were in a long time coming. Did you think that such attacks, in your opinion, were expected, and the timing of these attacks with regards to the situation and the change in the scene in the Arab region as a whole?
Well, I don't think that Israel expected Iran to be able to attack Tel Aviv and other cities in such a manner. And I believe that maybe the Israelis had also told the Americans that their first initial operation of assassinating all of the top leadership and attacking very specific military targets inside of Iran would actually cripple Iran. And Iran would not be able to retaliate, at least not in a very big way. And therefore the Americans were a little bit shocked when they saw all of these rockets, over 200 of them, fly into Israel and create such damage inside of Israel.
Yes.
And by the way, we saw a lot of what happened in Tel Aviv, but we didn't get any pictures of all of the military bases that were attacked by Iran, because many of these rockets were actually attacking military bases. So from that angle, it's a very big surprise. It was a big surprise for both the Israelis and the Americans. But what is the what is the exit strategy is the big question today, Angie, for both parties, for Israel and for Iran. If Israel actually realizes that it has absolutely no chance of toppling the regime that it supposedly claims is actually causes an existential threat to Israel, then the Israelis have to find a way to get out of this war and find a way to reach some kind of agreement with Iran in order for the war to stop. But I would like to just present one notion.
Sure.
The whole world knows that Iran does not have any nuclear weapons, and the whole world is trying to stop Iran from having any nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons, and Israel has not signed any treaties in order to control these nuclear weapons. If anybody is an existential threat to the other, it's Israel. That is threatening the existence of Iran and other countries. And this is where the double standards come in, NG, and everything becomes nonsensical, because the Iranians have always been willing to give access to the nuclear energy bodies of the UN, as well as experts from the EU, etc., etc. They've given them access. They're willing to be monitored. They continue to state that they do not want to have a nuclear weapon. But this attack would actually make it a good idea for Iran to seek nuclear weapons, because if they are going to be attacked in such a vicious manner, then they need to defend themselves.
Indeed. Just very quickly before I have to wrap up, Mr. Ramzy, also in developing news, a UN conference which was to be hosted by France and Saudi Arabia to work towards a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine has now been postponed after the Israeli military launched its attack on Iran. What were your expectations with regards to the hosting of such a conference, and do you see its cancellation as warranted?
Its cancellation was warranted, NG, because the United States of America started communicating with all countries asking them not to attend. So if the United States does not want countries to attend, not so many countries would attend, despite the fact that it is set up by France, a U.S. ally, by Saudi Arabia, a U.S. ally. But the Trump administration put a huge amount of effort to ensure that the conference would not be a success. And all of this was going on before the attack, before the Iran-Israel war that is going on right now. This is where the obstacle is. The obstacle is the United States of America refusing to allow for any resolution to pass through the Security Council, refusing to allow countries to at least recognize Palestine as a state in order to give the two-state solution an opportunity for survival, because every day that passes, every time that Israel expands settlement, what Israel is doing in the West Bank right now and in Gaza, all of these things are derailing the possibility for a two-state solution in the future. And the idea behind that conference was to bring back and put back the two-state solution on the table and garner the international support for it, so that Israel understands that this is the only solution that is presented.
Indeed. Finally, Mr. Ramzy, the international community, we've seen comments by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calling for a ceasefire, for a calm and return to dialogue, diplomacy, etc. What do you expect, if any expectations from the international community with regards to the developments happening in the region?
Well, of course, they will come out and they will diplomatically say, calm down and take it easy, etc. And the Iranians came out and said these calls for restraint are illogical. And from that angle, they are right. Iran was attacked by Israel, and Israel continues to attack Iran. Who needs to get into restraint? And what would happen to the Iranians if they did actually raise the white flag when they are under attack by Israel? That would be the end of the Iranians. Everybody knows this, but everybody has to come out and say this, whether it is Guterres or the heads of state in the region. All of them, they don't want to see an escalation, and all of them are calling for restraint. And the only way this is going to happen is if Israel feels that they are not going to achieve their ultimate goals, and now they have to come down off the tree that they have climbed, or if they win, if they actually achieve their goals. So the issue is with Israel.
Absolutely. Right, I'm afraid I have run out of time. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our Jordanian journalist and our guest for the afternoon. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's edition of Arab Affairs. You're in the company of myself, Angie Meher. Thank you for watching.